Congestive heart failure is the topic that our group chose for the homeostasis project. We looked over the general structure and function of the organ system. We also researched some details on how that organ system works to maintain homeostasis. Eventually, we looked into some diseases and lifestyle choices that could disrupt homeostasis within that organ system. Lastly, we compared the demographics on where and how congestive heart failure is occurring, and we chose to compare the United States to France. Okay, so first we have the heart. The heart is the main instrument of the body, and it serves the entire body. The heart sends deoxygenated blood to the lungs, delivering oxygen and rich blood to organs and tissues throughout the body. Next, we have the circulatory system. This system carries nutrients, hormones, and oxygen. It also removes waste from the blood vessels and the arteries. Arteries are the main focus of the circulatory system. The largest artery is the aorta, and it is connected to the heart. It picks up oxygenated blood from the left side of the heart's ventricle. It then circles through the blood vessels into different parts of the organs in the body. How does the circulatory system contribute to homeostasis? On the cellular level, erythrocytes, lymphocytes, thrombocytes, and plasma all contribute to homeostasis. Erythrocytes carry oxygen to the cells using hemoglobin. Lymphocytes fight infections and generate adaptive immune responses. Thrombocytes form blood clots in a positive feedback loop to stop or prevent bleeding. And lastly, plasma carries all parts of the blood through the circulatory system, as well as nutrients, hormones, proteins, and waste products to and from the necessary cells. So now that we know about the circulatory system, let's look at the heart itself. So first, homeostasis is highly dependent on the continuous and controlled movement of blood through the thousands of miles of capillaries that permeate every tissue and reach every cell in the body. Second, a multitude of control mechanisms needed for regulation and integration of the diverse and complex role of the circulatory system, and these mechanisms ensure a constant internal environment surrounding each body cell regardless of differing demands for nutrients or production of waste products. Lastly, it's when these mechanisms are no longer properly functioning that problems, such as congestive heart failure, could occur. How does something like congestive heart failure disrupt homeostasis? Systolic and diastolic function is impaired due to congestive heart failure. Another problem that can occur is cardiac output and renal blood flow is reduced. So now that the body is experiencing congestive heart failure, how will it respond? The body will respond by having the endocrine and the nervous systems compensate. In the endocrine system, angiotensin, aldosterone, and renin are all released. This will cause blood vessels to constrict, which will make the body retain water and sodium more than usual, which will add fluid to the circulatory system. Adrenaline is also released when cardiac output is low. This makes the heart beat faster. It can be counterproductive as it allows less time for the ventricle to fill with blood after each heartbeat. The heart will compensate by filling the ventricle with more blood, expanding the ventricle to increase its volume. Now, in the nervous system, catecholamines are released. This will constrict blood vessels and speed up the heart rate. It signals the heart to beat faster. At the same time, the arteries widen to increase blood flow to the brain and vital organs. After all these changes are made throughout the body, how will the heart react and how is the heart affected? Over time, the heart will be strained, which will lead to a development of hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is the thickening of a heart muscle and will allow the heart to pump harder. This will increase the heart's need for oxygen and other nutrients. It can make diastolic function worse by damaging the ability of the heart to relax properly, which will limit the heart's ability to fill with blood and further decrease cardiac output in a positive feedback loop. When the heart can no longer compensate, blood gets backed up in the lungs and other vital organs. This will cause shortness of breath and swelling of the abdomen and ankles, as well as an inability to produce enough cardiac output, leading to a reduced blood flow. Low cardiac output will cause fatigue, lightheadedness, and low urine output. One question is, how does congestive heart failure develop? Congestive heart failure is usually developed after another condition has already weakened or damaged the heart, and it also can occur if the heart has become too stiff. Diseases and lifestyle choices can lead to heart failure. One of the most common diseases is coronary heart disease, and a very common lifestyle choice that can increase the risk of heart failure would be the consumption of alcohol. Okay, so the most common cause of congestive heart failure is coronary artery disease or a heart attack. So coronary artery disease is caused from the buildup of fatty deposits in the arteries. This results in the lack of blood flow, which sometimes leads to heart attacks. A heart attack will occur suddenly when a coronary artery becomes completely blocked, and the damage caused by a heart attack will eventually lead to your heart not being able to pump as it needs to. Heart failure can occur with a normal ejection fraction. This happens if the heart muscle becomes stiff from conditions such as high blood pressure. In heart failure, the main pumping chambers of the heart, which are also known as the ventricles, can become stiff and not fill properly between beats. Having a high blood pressure makes your heart work harder than it should to circulate blood throughout the body. As time goes on, the extra exertion can make your heart muscle too stiff or too weak to pump blood properly. High blood pressure can be caused by lifestyle choice of consuming alcohol. Data has suggested that drinking more than 5 standard drinks in one setting is most likely associated with an increased blood pressure. This can range from 4 to 7 millimeters of mercury for systolic blood pressure and 4 to 6 millimeters of mercury for diastolic blood pressure. There are many underlying mechanisms of alcohol's effect on blood pressure. It can elude disruptions in the arteriovascular function through myogenic mechanisms and changes in baroreceptor function. It can also include damage in the cells that lead to plaque buildup in arteries through changes in endothelial cell function and nitric oxide availability. In addition, hormonal imbalances that control the body's fluid and blood pressure regulation will be impacted by alcohol. Other blood pressure mechanisms that can be affected by alcohol consumption include changes in calcium levels inside the cells, baroreflex control, heart rate, and the possible activations of other systems such as the sympathetic nervous system. On this next slide, we will be looking at some facts about congestive heart failure within the United States. Over 6 million people in the United States have heart failure, and over 13% of deaths in 2018 mentioned heart failure on their death certificates. America currently has an average of about 500,000 deaths per year due to congestive heart failure. On the following slide, we will be reviewing some facts about congestive heart failure in the country of France. There is about 61,000 deaths per year in France due to congestive heart failure, and even though this is a lot of people, it's nothing compared to the United States. It is on average 439,000 less deaths per year due to congestive heart failure. Now we might wonder, why is that? So on the next slide, we're going to compare the United States to France and why the United States has such a significantly larger number of deaths per year due to this heart failure. A similar diet is consumed in both America and in France. Both countries have a very high carb intake, but Americans have a significantly higher rate of obesity. Now that's pretty interesting considering we eat very similar things. So why do we have a higher rate of obesity? Well, more people on average in France exercise more. People in the United States exercise less on average. This results in a less healthy lifestyle in the United States compared to a more healthy lifestyle in France. A healthier lifestyle is correlated with a decreased risk in congestive heart failure. So if Americans were to work out more, there's a chance that the rate of congestive heart failure would go down. Okay, so now that we've made it through the whole presentation, let's do a quick overview on what we learned. So first we looked at the general structure and function of the circulatory system and the heart. We checked out some details on how the system works to maintain homeostasis. We looked at some diseases and lifestyle choices that disrupt homeostasis within the circulatory system. We specifically looked at coronary artery disease and alcohol consumption, which can lead to high blood pressure. And then lastly, we looked at the demographics of congestive heart failure within the United States, and we compared them to another country of France. So thank you so much for listening to our presentation.